Welcome back to another Division 2 upload. I'm LtBuzzLitebeer, and in today's video, I wanted to cover a whole host of topics, including the loot quality as of late, PvP, Skyscraper, rumors of another damage glitch, the dwindling player counts, and the apparent lack of any community interaction from Massive. But before we begin today's video, in case you haven't yet done so, please take just a moment to smash that sub button for intensive Division content, and don't forget to ring the bell to never miss another upload notification from my channel. Okay, well, let's get this one started. So before I jump into all those previously mentioned topics, I wanted to give you a brief explanation as to why you haven't seen much in the way of content showing up on my channel. And FYI, I was recently reactivated by my employer after being furloughed for several months, and my days went from playing video games and uploading a video a day to 8+ hours of video conferences plus some weekend overtime with games being forced into the background. Now, I've received some private messages from viewers asking if I've been muzzled by the dev team or if I've lost motivation to upload content, and I want to say that none of those rumors are true. I've just gone from 0 to 1 million miles an hour at work, and it has required all my time to catch up. Alright, with that out of the way, let's dive into the Division topics that I wanted to discuss today, and the first one has to do with loot quality. Now, since the State of the Game address, where the loot quality changes were discussed prior to Update 10.1 going live, we've learned a great deal as to what was meant by the different minimum percentages that can be found on gear and how they are tied to the different difficulty tiers. Now, for instance, when we heard that rolls will average 60 or 75%, the majority of the community interpreted that as each roll on gear or weaponry will be at least 60 or 75% of their respective attribute bars. But since that announcement and through gradual reporting and statements from the dev team, we have learned that those percentages were not for each attribute on the item, but more as an average between the rolls themselves. Now, this means that you could loot an item with a maximum core attribute, a maximum secondary attribute, and a third attribute with the absolute minimum roll. Now, as long as the attributes averaged together were in excess of the stated percentages, the mechanics were working as designed. Needless to say, this came as a real shock to a majority of the player base, as they had made their own assumptions about the changes to the loot quality based on the information provided, and it turned out that they, the players, were wrong in those assumptions. Now, another topic that has been gaining steam in the community discourse is the disintegrating quality of loot in general, as players are seeing more and more items with what they feel are below percentage standard pieces of gear, and I can say that I too have been experiencing this. You can call it whatever you want, a stealth loot nerf or whatever, but I have seen the overall attribute rolls on gear and weaponry slowly get worse, while the number of rainbow roll items that drop for me have increased. Now, I'm not going to make any excuses or assumptions as to what the dev team has been doing behind the scenes, but in a game that is labeled as a looter shooter, where the looter aspect is still a work in progress that seemingly never gets fully corrected, it really leads to a lot of disinterested players. Next up is PvP, and right now the PvP community, all 18 of you still left playing the game, are still dealing with major gear and build imbalances. Now, personally, I haven't been into the DZ in months, mostly because there is nothing in there that I need or want for my builds, but also due in part to the chaos that ensues. Now, I have a monster PC rig with the best internet available to my region, and I was consistently seeing rubber band lag spikes, freezing issues, and in general wonky connection issues, even when connected to a server that was based in my region. I've also never really connected with these small dark zones that really punish solo players by how close the extractions are to one another. Now, at least in the original Division game and that DZ, I had a chance to set off fake extractions and keep would-be rogues guessing as to where I was headed and would ultimately attempt my extractions. With the compressed DZs in Div 2, you can be at any of the extractions in less than 60 seconds, and it completely wrecks the ability to hide your route and intended destinations. Many players have resorted to just hanging out at the extractions and not even attempting to clear the landmarks, as they could just find players to engage and kill simply by camping. Switching gears onto the PvP builds, and the meta is seemingly built around high armor shield builds. Not that I have anything personally against using a shield in PvP, but when used in combination with in-sync and adrenaline rush, is leading to heavily armored tanks that have the ability to 2- and 3-tap players in PvP. All in all, between the lag issues, lack of incentives to enter the DZ, and the somewhat boring meta, I haven't felt the need to scratch that Division PvP itch in a long time. So let's jump to our next topic and talk about Skyscraper, or at least what we think it may be. Now, it was confirmed on the State of the Game when Hamish kind of let it slip that Skyscraper will be included in TU11, set to drop sometime in the near future. Now, as of yet, we really don't know much about it, other than the fact that it is a replayable mode, quite possibly like Resistance from Div 1. If it in fact does turn out to be anything like Resistance, I think this is a great and badly needed addition to the game. Replayability is something that the Division 2 lacks entirely, as it is built around narrative content drops, and overall, this has hurt the health of the game immensely. Having something that can be played over and over again, and hopefully will include some random generated spawn locations and NPC counts, will do nothing but help out the game. Is it enough to bring back large player counts and keep them occupied for more than a few weeks before they drift off again to go play GOT or COD? Probably not, but here's to hoping. Continuing to move on, and I have received several private messages about another damage glitch that has found its way into the game, and if history repeats itself with Massive, you know how they react to players using a broken mechanic in their game. Now, apparently there are ways to permanently activate the Headhunter buff so that it applies to all shots once procced, and another topic swirling around players using the Demolitionist tack link to stack the extra damage to targets out of cover across the entire squad. Now, I would act surprised, but these damage glitches are nothing new with the game. If I could appeal to anyone's sense of honor, I would ask that you don't use them in PvP, but it sounds like this is the very area of the game that it has found its way into. Next topic up for discussion are the player counts, or should I say, lack of players in the game. You see, my PC friends list used to be overflowingly full of agents, all busy engaging in their own activities, but when I am logged on to Uplay these days and checking out the directory, it has dwindled down to next to nothing. Even the Division UK Discord, which used to have several rooms of players and even more attempting legendaries in the raid, is now just a ghost town. Sure, I still see the same hardcore agents grinding it out day in and day out, but from what it used to be, these player counts are depressing. I would say that I don't know why someone isn't enjoying the game, but when the content is stagnant, the bugs are still found everywhere, and the loot is questionable, well, let's just say that I fully understand gamers wanting to try out something else. I personally have been spending a lot of my limited free time in the Assassin's Creed universe, and have just finished up Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and have now begun my Assassin's Creed 3 adventures. Okay, so final topic for today's video is the lack of community engagement from Massive towards important topics surrounding their game. Now, I know that last month the studio was on summer break, but they've been back for several weeks now and still nothing. We had that brief State of the Game broadcast a few weeks ago where they accidentally dropped the reveal that Skyscraper is coming in TU11, but other than that, it's been crickets. I can fully understand the lack of development, etc. due to the COVID issues, as the dev team are all working from different areas and their interaction must be severely fractured, but community development doesn't require it to be done from an official office space. I have seen literally nothing from anyone at Massive other than Bruce asking for input on topics via Twitter, and when I do see a response from someone on the dev or community team, it seems to be a response to a question or issue that is seemingly getting out of hand. There is no proactive approaches to communicating or staying in touch with the base. Rather, they have taken a reactive stance of only commenting when they absolutely have to. I can say with 100% certainty that hiding out of sight and acting like nothing is wrong or outright avoiding issues is the wrong approach to this community. I have often said that we are all human, and in that we all fuck up in our daily lives, but when we do, we need to own it. Acknowledge those mistakes, and then we need to move on. Hiding and going dark does nothing but fan the flames about theories that the dev team and Massive has completely given up on this game and are waiting until they can reveal when Division 3 will be coming. The dev team and or community team has still not acknowledged or released an official statement about their quote-unquote investigations into the confidential raid guide being in the hands of a select few for the Iron Horse raid Race to Worlds First. I also found it interesting how when the entire team was supposedly on summer break, they somehow found the time and resources to install the portrait with the names of the PC team into the base of operations. And all of this while their investigations were supposedly ongoing. Massive dev team, community team, how is this to be perceived by us, the player base? Now, I can tell you that the last video I posted about this topic received over 1,400 upvotes to just 71 downvotes, and that should tell you something very important. The lesson here is that I, just like all those upvotes, and I would guess a vast majority of the player base, wants to know that we are valued just as much as the well-known broadcasters and content creators. The only assumption we can make is that you are willing to turn a blind eye to this incident because those involved bring the game much needed attention. Otherwise, they would have already been banned, rolled back, or whatever punishment you feel like doling out. If I could say anything to the dev and comm teams, it would be that you need to act on this and you need to do so now. As I said before, there is no option C. There is no option to just go dark and wait for the flames to die out. By remaining silent, you are in fact feeding those flames with more and more gasoline. You have either A, conducted your investigations and found them guilty, or you have B, just been blowing smoke up our asses with your talk of investigations and are going to let the results stick. Now, with option A, you are sending a clear and effective message to the entire player base that these type of methods are not acceptable and that no player is above the law, so to speak, and that rules apply to everyone. With option B, you are also sending an equally clear message that fame and notoriety mean more to you than honesty and fair play. And in the future, you are encouraging these types of behaviors and that players should adopt a win at all cost mentality. Either way, you need to make it public. You need to go on camera, you need to look us all in the eyes and tell us what side of history you're going to stand on. That's going to wrap up today's video, and I look forward to reading your feedback in the comments section below. In case you haven't yet done so, I'd appreciate you smashing that sub button for more intensive Division content, and don't forget to ring the notifications bell to never miss another upload from my channel. If you liked the video, rate it with a thumbs up, if not with a thumbs down. Links to support my content creation include Patreon and Teespring, both in the video description below. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter for all my latest thoughts on most things gaming related. And until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer signing off.